Hello, I'm Miss Ellis. I'm your geography teacher for Year 10 this year. I've created this PowerPoint presentation audio file just basically to summarise and help you work through week 1, part 1 of Wellbeing for Year 10 Geography. So, Jingi Wala, this means welcome. So we acknowledge the Bundjalung people, the traditional custodians of the land on which our school stands, where we learn and work together and commit to building relationships, respect and opportunities for all Aboriginal people in our community. We would also like to pay respect to elders of the Bundjalung Nation, both past and present, and extend that respect to Aboriginal peoples in the surrounding nations. So, well-being from a connection to country. Indigenous peoples in Australia and around the world see themselves not only as owners of the land, but also as custodians. So Indigenous people's well-being is therefore closely connected to the land in which they reside. Many Indigenous people have the worldview and strong beliefs that the land around them, the trees, the rivers, the creeks, the rocks, mountains, were all formed by their spirit ancestors or form a part of their spirit ancestors. So this is a different worldview than maybe you've experienced or learned about before, but it is emphasises the importance of our land to Indigenous people, and that's directly linked to their well-being. So caring for the land, being custodians of the land and protecting their traditional stories and heritage is really important to our Indigenous people's well-being. So that's a great way to start this week's learning material, I think. Okay, so moving on. Who in the world is happy and well? Okay, so this week you're focusing on learning about what is human well-being and development and what actually makes people happy. So understanding what makes people happy and why, and which factors contribute to high levels of well-being is important, because we want to know how come some people in some parts of the world are happier than people in other parts of the world, what contributes to that well-being, because then you can translate that across borders and help other people around the world move forward as well in regards to happiness and well-being. So it's an important topic. So starting off, we're thinking about some well-being examples around the world, and we've got 2 for you to think about today. So there's the Danish hygge, and later on in the lesson we'll talk about Bhutan's gross national happiness. But first of all, so Danish hygge. So the origin of hygge, it's sort of, you think it sounds like that, but it's pronounced hygge, H-Y-G-G-E, comes from a Norwegian word meaning well-being. It has since evolved into the cultural idea known in Denmark today, which roughly translate into coziness of the soul. So Denmark is a northern European country that has long cold winters and very high taxation rates for its citizens. But according to the United Nations World Happiness Report of 2016, the Danes are in some of the happiest people in the world, and they attribute this to their concept and the origin of hygge, which comes from the Norwegian word meaning well-being, as stated before. So it has since evolved into a cultural idea known in Denmark today, which really translates into the happiness of the soul. So taking a look at this video here, let's see how Danes explain hygge themselves. Alright, so just be patient while it loads. You might not know, but Denmark has as few as 7 hours of dull sunlight a day in winter. So that might explain for you why hygge is so important in the winter months to the Danish people. They're particularly, I don't know if you've ever learnt or read about it, the science of it, but living in cold climates where you don't get much sunlight can lead to depression and other sorts of problems for people. So Danish have come up with this way of trying to counteract that for their culture, which is an interesting concept. So let's just press play here. Let's load it up. Okay, so that's the Danish explanation for hygge. Just go back one. Just in case that video did not work on this PowerPoint, because I've had a little bit of trouble with that. Yeah, I've had a little bit of trouble with that today. If any of these videos don't work and you can't hear it in the PowerPoint presentation, can you come back please and just copy the link into a URL and watch it yourself. So just open up a new window and come back to that video. Alright, so next on our presentation is Bhutan's gross national happiness. Okay, so Bhutan is another country well known for its focus on people's happiness. They made a conscious effort decades ago to change the focus of the country from gross national product, so that's like a broad way of measuring economic activity like profits and expenses and things, away to a more measure of success of happiness in the country. And you'll find when we watch this video in a moment that part of the key reason they moved that way is because they realized development can be improved and directly linked to people's well-being and happiness. So if the government's policies and procedures and things are working towards more human-centered approaches that increase well-being and happiness, then they're going to have better outcomes for the country and attain a more balanced needs-based aspect with the way they run the country. So it's directly linked to their needs like food, accommodation, like shelter, and spiritual needs as well. So let's go now and have a look at a little video about that decision.
Hello. I'm good. How are you? Oh, well, it's
Okay, So that's that one. Alright, so happiness and its link to well-being and development. So these are all closely connected concepts, and it's really important that you can spell and define these concepts. So happiness is really just generally overall way people feel. So are they generally happy and contented with their life? And well-being is a combination of things being met, so a healthy body and a healthy mind, for example. And development refers to economic, social and political changes in place that improve the living standards and well-being of people, including providing better access to infrastructure and amenities like water, sewage, transport and internet, industry, and laws that protect people. Okay, so they're important words for this week's work for you to understand and be able to spell accurately. Alright, so that's the brings us to the end of the PowerPoint, and just so you're aware, you could come back and watch this PowerPoint again, and like I mentioned before, if the videos don't work, just find those links in the materials and watch them just by inserting the link into the URL address at the top. Okay, so I'll just turn this back onto me and make it full screen. Alright, so you have a worksheet to work through now, and you can go back through the PowerPoint presentation and then pause it where you need to help yourself answer these questions. And there's also an attached printed copy of the PowerPoint, so all the words are written in front of you as well, so you can use that to help yourself answer the materials. So these are the worksheets. Moving over. Okay, part 1. Who in the world is happy and well? Okay, so there's a series of questions that you have to work through this week. Some mapping questions, some true and false questions, closed passage, another mapping question. Okay, some of those concepts explained a little bit further, and then the last task is graphing your own hygge. So what things make you happy? Okay, so with that you will need to work out a scale on the axes. Okay, up the side and across the bottom you will list the things in life that are most likely to give you hygge, and up the side you scale them from 1 to 10. Okay, I'll show you here my example that I did earlier for you. Sorry, line it up. So I've got a title on my graph. You can see my title, my hygge ratings. Up the side I've ranking, it's 1 to 10 on that axis, so just a centimetre apart. And then across the bottom I measured 2 centimetres for each column graph, and I've got things like sleep in, what was the other ones? Drink